Bitcoin equals security. We know that. Yeah, NFTs are pretty, DeFi is powerful, digital identity is most definitely the future, but far and away the most important quality of Bitcoin is its security. That is why it's paramount that we translate that same conviction for security with Bitcoin down to our Clarity smart contracts that will be the foundation for Web3. Think about all the infrastructure that has held large amounts of user funds historically. Bank vaults are like a foot thick of concrete. Casinos transport poker chips with the big, like, scary bouncers next to them. Armored cars are bulletproof. If the old guard is protecting user funds that intensely, I know blockchain developers can do even better when it comes to smart contracts. But nobody can do it alone. And that's why bug bounties are super important for finding rockstar hackers out in the wild that want to fix your code. After all, it takes a village to raise a smart contract. Immunify is one of the leading bug bounty platforms in Web3 space and has paid out, I had to double check this in the browser when I was looking it up, $20 million of bounties on the platform to bug squashers. We're excited to have Ben San Roman here with us today from the platform. And one of the projects that has leveraged ImmuneFi is ALEX, represented once again by Hadan Esperidiao this afternoon. And our moderator today is Freelance Journalist and crypto event crusher Bailey Reutzel. She's going to pull a Barbara Walters and make sure we get all the juicy details from Hadan and Ben. Please welcome all three to the stage.
Thank you. All right, everybody come closer, come closer, come closer. Sure, it's hard to whisper in a microphone, but I'm about to tell you some horror stories. Okay, come here. $320 million stolen, hacked out of the Solana wormhole bridge recently. There's another one. 610 million stolen from Poly Network. Thank you. Yes, it's terrifying. And then total in 2021, there was 4.25 billion hacked out of mostly DeFi protocols, to be fair, but across crypto. And that tripled from 2020. So if you're not listening to this and you have a project, I see some people in the back. If you get hacked, we are going to drag you on Twitter because you need to be listening to this conversation. Like Joe said, thank you, Joe, for that lovely introduction. I'm Bailey Reutzel, longtime crypto journalist, been in this space since 2012, and also helped put on this event, so yay. And then also Hadan and Ben here with me. I want to start by how I learned about Immunify. And so basically, I stumbled on Immunify's platform because I follow a lot of hackers, and I'm sort of in that space. I am not a hacker myself, but what you see on HackerOne is like the highest bug bounty you could possibly get is like $10,000 for a pretty critical bug. Most of them are like hundreds of dollars, maybe a couple $1,000s. On Immunify, you have been paying out people like millions of dollars sometimes for one bug. That's for one critical bug, paid out $1 million. And the point of Immunify, sorry, I'm really doing the P's here, I feel like, so my bad. I can like hear that myself. But the point is to do like 10% of TVL because, you know, it doesn't make sense for a white hat hacker or for a hacker to come in and not just steal the funds if you're not giving them like a certain level of money from what they found or what the vulnerability that they found. So I guess, Ben, I want to start with you. Just sort of talk about the creation of Immunify and why that 10% TVL is so important in this particular space.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I mean, the way that we come up with the percentage against TVL is really, like you said, incentivize people to come from being black hat hackers to white hat hackers. And so we see there's a direct correlation in terms of as those bounties go up and increase, the activity that those projects can see real time are pretty incredible. I think right now we have close to 300 projects on the platform. About 10% of those are paying out $1 million plus, and we have 2 that are, I think, 10 million. Another 5. Stacks is on there for $1 million. And like I said, I think that just shows the trust that, you know, in terms of from the project side, showing that they're taking security seriously. Not that we don't, but that everyone is. There's a third party that we're willing to go ahead and enroll to build the trust between the hackers and the projects. And that 10% really is just a way to incentivize, like you said, for somebody to look at it and not say, hey, I can take all of these funds, but there's a better way for me to do this and also improve crypto and Web3 at the same time. And I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of our hackers, is that they do believe in what we're doing, and they want to be part of improving the security, because ultimately that's going to impact adoption globally.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look, they're not getting, they could exploit it for more money, right?
Absolutely.
But it does take, it takes a specific person who wants to follow through with black hattery, I suppose, right? And so if you can incentivize them well enough, they will be white hats. Yeah, so I want to transition to Hadan here to just sort of talk about why you decided to use Immunify. I mean, in the way I think about this is there's just such a draw to like fuck it, ship it in crypto, especially in crypto. And like that pressure to ship something just means that you need this Immunify bug bounty on the backside. So yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Sure. And so for anyone who's been familiar with ALEX since our testnet phase, will be aware that we've taken really the opposite approach to brushing and shipping the finished product. On October 10th, our testnet started, and I'll remember it well because I was awake for 36 hours straight, managing the community. For the first hour, only maybe a dozen users at a time who we were manually sending codes were able to come in and test the platform. By the end of that first day, we had hundreds of users at a time. And each that were coming through, they were doing proof of work. They were testing all functionalities. They were submitting bug reports. So right from the very beginning, our community has been our immune system. Our community has been how we've bettered and improved ourselves every step of the way. And after those initial phases of our testnet, which as users saw improved very quickly, developed rapidly, it got to the level where the bug reports submitted were becoming more and more nuanced. And that's where it made sense to have a formal bug bounty program, so that we have an independent third party that is standing behind our word and offering a $100,000 bounty for people who find a critical bug. And now, of course, with something like DeFi, it's absolutely impossible to eliminate all protocol risk. It's just not going to happen. We, however, have taken the steps of having 2 independent security audits done. The first was by CoinFabric. Then we had a separate security audit done by Least Authority. In addition to that, we have ImmuneFi, and still on every single page of our app, app.alexlab.co, you will see on the bottom right-hand corner a little bug icon, which if you click on it, will take you to the ImmuneFi bug bounty page, which formalizes that program. Because again, the incentives for a white hat hacker are one, if you're black hat, yes, you can run this exploit, but then you're sort of within quotes a cyber fugitive on the run, and having to move this money around and finding ways to take it out. And some are clever enough to do it, but still, that isn't a lifestyle everyone is interested in pursuing.
Sure.
If you're a white hat hacker, not only do you get a clean, legitimate payout, but I think even more important to that, you really build up your reputation to an extraordinary degree. I mean, that looks really good on a resume,
Sure.
and there's no lack of demand for cybersecurity experts out there. Pay is fantastic, and so I think those are really the incentives and rewards for people who have more of a long-term vision and are looking to establish themselves as career white hat hackers and security experts, instead of having to play these again, black hat legal red zone games.
Right. Okay, so you have a $100,000 bounty. Is that the only one you have on Immunify?
At the moment, yes.
Okay, and then you said there was $1 million total in stacks or Bitcoin. I guess I want to hear how the Bitcoin community and like this broader stacks community is coming to Immunify, because I know y'all started sort of ETH focused, which makes sense because a bunch of DeFi was on ETH, but.
Right. No, so Stacks is relatively new, the bounty. I think we just launched in the last two or 3 weeks. So it is a new relationship. But what our hope is that everyone developing on top of Stacks trust Immunify as well to be, and ALEX, same concept, is that what we're seeing is that as we're starting to develop these relationships, the projects that are also developing on those ecosystems are also entrusting Immunify. And I think that just empowers the overall platform. And I think one of the things I want to speak to Hadan's response was in regards to the white hat hackers. That's one of the things that we're aggressively doing. We're always trying to recruit the best and elite hackers. And to your point, you know, the recognition, one of the things that we're going to be introducing soon is like a leaderboard in terms of who these elite hackers are and that are actually submitting these reports on a regular basis and giving them the recognition that they're looking for. Because again, we want to award them for doing the right thing when they find these exploits. So that's kind of how we go about building out our community and our platform.
And so it's just Stacks and Alex in terms of this community that has them on Immunify.
I'm not going to say for sure, but I'm certain at this moment that's who it is at this moment. But again,
okay,
there's
cool.
a lot of projects that we have that I don't.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. You got lots of projects. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I also like Immunify is because, you know, when a hacker comes to a DeFi protocol and is like, hey, I can steal $300 million from your protocol, that's like a really bad way to start a conversation. Like, nobody wants to hear that. Right. And so Immunify sort of takes that middleman where they're sort of acting on behalf of the hacker and then also the protocol. And so I think that's really cool. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I think internally, one of the things we're always talking about, a word that we're always using constantly is trust, right? And so we do see ourselves as that middleman in terms of building the trust with the projects themselves, as well as building that trust with the hackers. And we take that very seriously. So we're always working with both sides to make sure that our platform's offering both sides what they're looking for. And we continually improve that pretty much daily in terms of making sure that we do so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hadan, what keeps you up at night regarding security? Regarding security.
I think, again, it seems almost weekly you read about one of these cases of, of these huge exploits. As you mentioned, I think Axie Infinity, in fact, just had perhaps the largest one yet. I think it was over 600 million.
Yeah.
Or something to that extent. And so, yeah, that's really a major concern. And I would say, if there's my number one concern is always that ALEX is doing enough, and that whenever we have any new smart contracts that are going to be public facing, again we call back Coin Fabric, we coin back least authority, we have them audited first. In terms of our community, we also reach out to communities within Stacks, such as Savita Guild, which is an ethical core of these super hackers, and really encourage them to really do their best to break ALEX, test it to the limits. And you know what? We're going to stand behind our word in what you can be compensated with by that through having a formal bug bounty program like we do through ImmuneFi. And so, again, it's impossible to completely eliminate all protocol risk. I think something that is of some benefit is also that Stacks is coded in Clarity, which is a decidable language. And so that means that Clarity, it isn't compiled into machine code. It's broadcast onto the blockchain exactly as it is written. And I give a tremendous amount of credit to the Arcadico project because they were the first DeFi in Stacks to sort of go live. And when the exploit occurred, the fact that it was on Clarity meant that they were able to go into the blockchain and see exactly the code that was used. And they were quickly able to take that and use a reverse hack and recover 88% of the funds within hours. Had this happened on Solidity, what would have been broadcast to the blockchain would have been hexadecimal machine code. Right. There would have likely have been no way at all to recover any of the funds that were taken. With Clarity, there's really nowhere for hackers to hide. Even if they do succeed, we'll know exactly how it is that they did it with the actual code they used instead of having this compilation occur. And so that's why I think for DeFi overall, Bitcoin doesn't need DeFi because Bitcoin existed before DeFi. If DeFi ever disappears, Bitcoin will still exist and likely always will. But DeFi does need Bitcoin. It needs the security of the Bitcoin blockchain, the most secure network in human history, and it needs the transparency that a decidable language like Clarity provides. Because to onboard these major institutions who are doing tens of billions of dollars in transactions, you want to be able to see that code broadcast onto the blockchain instead of having to parse, garbled, machine code that you can't make night or day of.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting, and something I'm not a programmer. I hang around a lot of programmers, so maybe I should know this, but I didn't know that about Clarity.
Same.
So, yeah, that's actually really interesting. I'm wondering for you, Hadan, how much time and money do you spend thinking about UX, UI, marketing versus security?
Security, always first and foremost, our priority. Every time one of these exploits comes out into the news, it's the topic of conversation for the day. How did this occur?
But what's interesting, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. What's interesting is that it's only for that day. Like, you can actually lose $600 million, and then we're all, okay, moving on to the next thing. It's so crazy in crypto. People can lose all this money, and then, people still think it's fine, I guess. I don't know. I'm interested to also hear why you think that is in this space.
Sure. Well, as I say, topic of that day, and that, obviously that's the focus of the team. Like, how did this occur? How can we prevent it from occurring on our own platform? And then the conversation shifts to making sure that we're learning from this as much as possible. The fact that these big exploits occur is a real problem, and it's really a major issue that I think holds back DeFi from mass adoption, that these massive amounts of money are lost. I mean, imagine being a pension fund, and how are you going to convince them to trust their funds on DeFi when you have these massive exploits occurring? So it's in the interest of no one to have this happen. At the same time, we're on the very frontier of the internet and at the very frontier of finance. And when you're at the frontier, it's the Wild West. And so, risk and reward come together. Just before I was talking about how currently the APRs on ALEX range from 150% to 300% APR. And, I know that makes, some people widen their eyes, but the reason it's that high is because it's risk that you're taking on. Right. It's an unescapable fact of finance, that risk and reward go hand in hand. And ultimately, it's down to the user to do their due diligence on the project team, on the technology. Have they been audited? Do they have a bug bounty program in place, like with ImmuneFi? So you have to determine for yourself, who should you trust, and at the same time, keep in mind that as with anything that is a relatively risky investment, don't invest more than you're able to lose at the end of the day. And so, prudence, of course, as we figure this all out together.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, as soon as you said 350% APY, I was like, I got to get on ALEX.
You do.
But I also, my risk aversity is low. It's very low in crypto. Right. Ben, I want you to talk about some of the success cases, if you can. One of them that I love, and all of you should go read this article. It's called From Inside the War Room, and it's written by an Immunify guy named Jonas. But just about the primitive finance hack and how a white hat hacker came to them and saved them like hundreds of millions of dollars. But I wonder if you have some other stories you could tell us about success.
Yeah, absolutely. One that I think right now is my favorite is we had a gentleman in Indonesia. He just got into hacking, and we have what we're really proud of is a white hat scholarship program, where essentially we will back aspiring or existing hackers to essentially learn through Immunify hacking techniques in Web3. And this gentleman, 3 months into this scholarship program, he found a vulnerability that was pretty significant with one of our projects. And the payout for him really changed not just his life, but the entire village that he was part of in terms of what he's able to give back to the community. And those are the things that we're looking for, right, is like inclusivity. he's actually going to be joining Immunify as an intern moving forward. And so we're really happy to bring him on board. But I think those are the opportunities we're looking for, is the people that are really invested in the future of DeFi. And so that's one of the ones that comes to me because it's very personal. But in terms of every day, I think we're seeing success in different ways, but that's just one that stands out just recently.
How big has Immunify gotten? I think when I talked to Mitchell, one of the co-founders over there, it was maybe like 15 people, but I think you guys have grown like quite substantially recently.
Yeah, we're roughly 50, and we have we're looking at doubling here in the next few months. So we have a lot of open opportunities. We are looking for a number of different roles within the organization to fill. So, please look at our careers page, and everything will be there for you.
Are there hackers sitting here listening to this right now, white hat or black hat? I guess you don't have to tell me which, but
Gray hats too.
Okay, no, cool. I mean, this makes me want to be a hacker, which I'm not going to do, but I'm just like, the payouts are incredible. I want to tell one other story. I will totally let you jump in. One other story about Immunify that I found really interesting. So they have a triager over there who found this exploit in the Sandbox contract. Sandbox, if you know, is like sort of metaverse gaming. What happened was users would send their sand tokens to the contract, which usually means like you cannot get them out at all, like they are lost. But somebody had figured out how to start draining that from the contract. And what one of the Immunify people did was basically front run the guy who was draining that, and then he would pull them out and give them back to the users with a little note that said like, welcome to the dark forest, you fucked up, please don't send it to the contract. And like this stuff that's really fascinating. And like a lot of that stuff is happening on the blockchain that if you know where to look, you can watch this, and it's really amazing. So yeah, Hadan, I know you wanted to jump in there.
Oh, sure. And it's that when it comes to security, typically what makes the news are these big exploits or protocol risks. But something that we're always reminding our online community about is to always be vigilant. Because oftentimes when someone will post, I got hacked, it's not the Bitcoin network that got hacked. That's never happened. It's that they've been socially engineered or conned. Or maybe they receive a Discord invite that says, you've won this bonus NFT. Please validate your wallet. And it takes you to a site that looks like a clone of your hero wallet. And it tells you to enter your security keys. Right. Or maybe someone will message you in the guise of an ALEX team member, which is why we make clear that we will never, for any reason, ask you for your passphrase, security keys, or anything similar, to just win over your trust that way. I think a few months ago there was, a relatively sophisticated NFT collector who had like 3 or 4 Bored Yacht Apes stolen. And it was through someone that he met on Discord. This hacker, more of a scammer really, or a con man, cultivated a trusting relationship over months. And then he was like, I'm having an issue with my PC. The guy goes, you know what, let me remote log in for just a minute. I can help you out there. And that's really all it took. And he lost more than $1 million. Right. And so, that's why it really goes. There's the responsibility of the platform that we do our very best, but also you as a DeFi, user or participant or community member, please always be vigilant. If anything sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Except for 350% APY. Not that.
Well, it'll be going down. So.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, look, this is really interesting that there are like long cons in crypto too. Usually when I think about hackers, I think about, I don't know, like the fake IRS calling me and is like, give me your bank account number. Right. And if I say no, they don't call back every 2 minutes. But these like long cons are happening in crypto all the time. And I know the co-founder at Immunify has said DeFi is like, what were his words? Sorry. Most attractive target for hackers. So yeah, I don't know. That's not a question. It's just like, can we comment on that? Like, what do we do as consumers and users of these platforms? And then also, I know as a protocol you're doing the bug bounties, but yeah, Ben, I'll pass it to you there.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a point you mentioned earlier, which was the hacks seem like they happen every day, and it seems like for us in the industry, it seems like it's just that day. But I think it's the long-term effects with people that are on the fringe looking in and wondering if they want to participate. And I think that's why the bug bounty programs are important, to show that we are addressing those concerns, that all of the projects are taking security that seriously. And I think that's going to be the difference between wide adoption, to Hadan's point, and or not. But so, yeah, like I said, it's we kind of become, not to be like a pun here, but immune to the idea that that day there was a hack. But like I said, the long term on the people outside of our industry, I think is what's really we're trying to address. That those things are being
in terms of, in terms of all this open source code that people are using and basically just copy pasting, right? At Immunify, do you see some of the same bugs basically across all these DeFi platforms as they copy paste code?
I wouldn't be able to answer that. I do know that we're able to typically address them pretty quickly. So my guess is that we have a knowledge base of those types of hacks. So we do help in terms of triaging and addressing what the reports are to a certain extent. But yeah, like I said, from my point of view, I would assume that we do.
Yeah. And Hadan, for ALEX, did you use a code base that was already sort of created and then just tweak it, or did you build all of that from scratch?
I can't speak as to the dev side, not being a dev myself.
That's fair.
But considering that first of all, ALEX is written in Clarity, which is already a relatively new language to crypto as a whole. My belief is, unless I stand to be corrected, but we really started from scratch. And everything that we wrote, and we progressively improved it through the contributions of our community again throughout our testnet. We were due to launch our mainnet originally in mid-November. It ended up being in the beginning of January, exactly because we didn't want to rush it. We wanted to cover all our bases. We wanted to have our security audits done. We wanted to give the most technologically sophisticated communities on stacks the opportunity to try to break in. And if they did, we put our money where our mouth is through formal bug bounty programs, such as the one on the ImmuneFi. But especially in even having our security audits done, you'll note in the reports that they're saying, well, this is the first audit that we're doing in Clarity, which is a whole new language. And so I think that also plays into the fact that there really wasn't much of a code base that we could copy paste from.
Yeah, that's fair. And you haven't paid out a bug yet.
I can't speak to that, not to my understanding.
Okay. Well, I don't know, maybe. We'll look into that later. Because most of them are public, right? Or you make them public over time.
Correct.
Yeah, there's a whole Immunify blog that is actually really fascinating, to be fair, about all these different exploits. Okay, last question. I wanted to ask where you think the next big security hurdle or the big security crash is going to come in crypto. I will give my answer first because it can be high level. You don't have to point at a specific company, although you definitely can. But I think bridges, this is pretty obvious for most people here. Bridges remain pretty insecure. Vitalik has talked about this quite a bit, that the cross-chain future is a bit scary because bridges are so insecure. And that is basically where the wormhole attack came from for Solana. And then also Axes came from a bridge as well. Although I think theirs was a phishing attack. So it wasn't the tech. It was somebody got phished via email. But yeah, Hadan, I'll start with you. Where's the next big security hole?
I think I absolutely agree that bridges are something that have to be approached very carefully. And in the meantime, we have intermediate solutions such as wrap tokens like XBTC and soon XUSD that do provide some cross-asset exposure without there being a full bridge being constructed, which of course requires a lot of rigor and a lot of vetting. Because I think the lesson that we learn is that any vulnerability can and will be exploited to some degree or another. And obviously, as far as hacking the Bitcoin network itself, can't be done. Hasn't been done yet. Most secure network in human history. But then suddenly you create a bridge from Bitcoin to Ethereum or Solana, and if you, especially once that bridge goes live, a lot of these bugs and faults you end up learning the hard way. So unless you really make the effort, as we did, to have multiple security audits, unless you have a formal bug bounty program to hopefully incentivize the white hats to catch this before things go awry, it's something that you have to approach with extreme caution.
And then Ben, for you, what do you see?
Yeah, same thing. Bridges is top of mind.
You guys are copying.
I know, it was too easy. You made it too easy for us. But honestly, that's top of mind for us as well.
Okay, one more question. Have you been hacked before, Ben?
No.
Jeez.
No.
Hadan. What? Has anybody here been hacked? Okay, great. Like, to be fair, I haven't been hacked, but I have been SIM swapped 3 times in crypto. So that's like a major hole that I'm trying to plug up. Oh my goodness. Who are you? Yeah. Oh my God, she should be up here. Yeah, for sure. Okay, that's really surprising. I mean, do you know folks in the space that have been hacked?
Yeah.
Like personally, do you have any stories, like harrowing stories from like DeFi that?
Again, not first-person accounts, only the media that we all sort of receive and review. But again, I'm very stacks focused in my viewpoint. So, of course, we're aware of the exploits that have occurred. And we just use those to motivate us all the more to do the best that we can to avoid that as much as possible.
Yeah, I feel like Stacks hasn't had a big one, but you know, maybe that's coming. So sorry to put that out there into the world.
But again, because of Clarity, when it did happen, 88% of those funds were recovered within 12 hours, which is fantastic work by the Arcadico team. So kudos to them for really showing what Clarity is capable of and why it makes a world of difference to have a decidable instead of a compiled language at the core of your protocol.
That's really cool. Thank you all for listening. I know security can be both fascinating and kind of boring. People are like, I don't want to hear about that. I want 350% APYs. So thank you so much for listening. That's all for us. Thanks.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey.